I was here. So I'll be honest with you, I've not had a chance to go back and watch it. I'm assuming it lasted longer than 4 minutes.
It did go longer than 4 minutes. The agenda was longer. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, we had a lot of time.
Good.
I tried.
Good, good. All right. All right, so first item for consideration for Monday's agenda is an item under awards and presentation. That is a flash flood damage update by Road and Bridge. They're gonna kind of give us an update as to where they are, where we are on some of these roads. And we were talking before we come downstairs. I mean, we've got a tremendous amount of work to get done. Y'all know James done a good job for a number of years. Any objection to placing this item on the agenda?
No
objection. Good. Item number 3 is a request to approve budget amendment to purchase timekeeping software and authorize chairman to negotiate and execute all necessary documents. I'm going to ask Ms. Sherry to come up and explain this item. This is a budget amendment. It is not gigantic, but it is also not insignificant. But I'm going to let her, because she's going to do a better job than I will of explaining why we really need to consider going with this software. So Sherry?
I'll certainly try. Thank you. Basically, the current timekeeping system that we're using is 20 years old, and it was written by a former IT director who has been retired probably at least 15 years or more. And because of the coding and from what I understand, it's a little bit archaic. When we try to fix things, other things mess up. So we spend an enormous amount of time trying to make sure that the pay is accurate. And we believe that as an employer, paying people on time and accurately is one of our most important functions in my department. So we're asking to get this timekeeping system to streamline that process, not only for just the labor hours spent doing it, but also consistency and making sure that time is reported correctly. This software people, the company that we're looking at, will currently integrate with our Delta system that we're using to process payroll now. And it will also integrate well with some other products that accounting is looking at from an accounting payroll processing and GL software system. So it'll work with what we have now, and it'll work with what we're looking at for the future. So as far as any hardware involved, it does have the capability, if you guys see the vision that some of you have talked about with the keyless entry badge sign-in system to get into a building access, whatever you call it, that same equipment, all you have to do then is get the badges. So it has the capability of growing as you guys decide to make changes or grow with that plan.
Good job. Any questions on this item?
No.
I've got a couple, not to put you on the spot. How is this different, or does it have anything to do with the system that we use? Some of the other stuff, the AS400, Is that, does that have anything to do with the AS400 system? Or is this totally separate?
Okay, well, the system that we're currently using is a handwritten program that was written in AS400. When all the timekeepers get through keying those timesheets, it feeds into the Delta payroll processing. It's gonna be the same concept, except that hand recipe program is not gonna be out there. This is going to replace it. It will still feed in to the existing Delta system.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Now, is this going to be for all county employees?
In some form. It has flexibility for each department to implement it the way that they see fit. It's not a choice that we have as far as a timekeeping system, but the department heads will have choices in how they want to use it. We don't care as long as the time gets in there, so we can process your time. So,
So it doesn't really matter if they go in and check in or check out
correct.
with the system?
A lot of departments, like everybody now in the administration building, I think everybody, there may be one or two exceptions, already key in from their desk computer. This also has the capability of cell phone with geofencing if you want to have a radius set up. It also has the capability of a hybrid system where some people might use time clocks, some people might use paper, some people might use a phone, some people might use an iPad. So it's up to the department, what works in their department.
Okay. How will this affect future budgets as far as any overtime that may accrue due to, say, use the sheriff's office, for example? The guys going in service like at 5:45 and their shift starting at 6 o'clock. Because I understand they're on an 84-hour pay period. So minimum they have to do is 84. Anything over 86,
Correct,
they're entitled to either overtime or comp time.
correct.
With that being said, with them clocking in and out, anything over that 86 hours, they're entitled to be compensated for
Correct,
without, it being what we call a call out. If something arises like the investigators or SRT or DIT or any specialty unit that gets called out, that they get overtime for it.
correct.
So, and some of that is already in the budget as far as overtime for the sheriff's office. So with them clocking in at 1:45 and by the time they finish their last call and they drive home, it may be another 30, 45 minutes. So it could be an hour a day now that each deputy is getting paid overtime for.
Correct.
So is this something we need to adjust for future budgets to take care of that overtime?
Well, if they're getting it now, they're gonna get it in the future. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, right now, it's not as limited to far as when they're clocking in and clocking out. Okay. But when you put them on a clock system, then it is more regulated on their time. So,
Not unless you build it in on the backside.
okay. No.
I mean, they should get paid for every minute that they work.
The reason I'm asking this is questions that has been asked.
Sure,
And I didn't have the answer and I don't have the answer.
yeah.
So that's why I'm trying to find out now.
And Casey has actually seen the demo and actually the person that we have been talking to, the company that we've been talking to, the account rep worked at a sheriff's office for 5 years before she went to work for this company. She's very familiar with the way law enforcement and firefighters work. They are nationwide and they have references from tons of law enforcement and firefighters. We've talked to them about the 86 rule and we've been assured that that is not a problem.
Okay.
We've also talked with some other agencies that are using them.
Okay. And you also said a geofencing on the phone. Not every county employee is issued a phone. So how would that affect them? Because I don't think where I can say to a county employee that we do not pay the cell phone bill, that they have to use that cell phone to clock in.
The department heads will be deciding who could clock in on what device. We will be the business partner with each department head for them to decide how to implement it in their department.
That can still be done on paper, correct?
Correct,
As long as it's keyed in.
correct.
So
We're
that-
not gonna key it,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
as long as it's keyed in, correct?
so each department can change, but you don't necessarily have to change from what you're doing.
Like I said, that's just some questions that
Sure.
were brought to me, and
Very reasonable question.
I told them I'd try to get an answer for them.
That's no problem. Reasonable question.
That was awesome. This was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, good. The cost for this is $44,528. This is gonna be an annual expense, and if you,
Looking at a May 1 rollout.
yeah, and I remember I did the math based on our number of full-time equivalent employees. I mean, it's $4 and something per employee, which is pretty reasonable for cloud-based software. We've gotten by on this free system for
20 years.
20 years, but I think
You
our,
paid for it, you just don't realize.
we
it.
have paid for it. Yeah, we've almost missed payroll a couple times because of this.
Yes, sir.
So we don't want to do that. So anyway, we've got to do something. And I think you've done a lot of research and I appreciate you doing that. My recommendation that we move forward with this, but any other questions from the commission?
No, sir, no objection.
No
Any
objection.
objection to placing this item on the agenda? Okay. Item number 4 is a request to adopt resolution in support of Amendment 1. So I'm going to do my best to talk about this. I guess, does anybody have glasses that want to volunteer to read this?
You couldn't see out of mine if I wanted to.
Thank you. All right, so I guess I'm going to read this. This is going to be the most government thing that we talk about today. And anyway, so whereas voters will soon consider Amendment 1, which will be on the ballot during the 2024 primary election held on March 5th, 2024. And whereas the legislature regularly passes local laws and local constitutional amendments that impact the services provided to the county's residents, as well as the mechanisms for funding these services. And whereas some of these taxpayer-funded services include law enforcement, education, fire protection, ambulance services, and the regulation of alcoholic beverages and economic development. And whereas since 1984, the Alabama Constitution has required that no legislation be considered by the legislature until both the state's annual budgets are passed and delivered to the governor. And whereas there is an exception that allows the legislature to consider other matters ahead of the budgets by adopting a budget isolation resolution, BIR, by a vote of not less than 3/5 of a quorum present. We'll come back to that in a second. Whereas the language of this exception has been interpreted various ways since 1984 and has generated lawsuits in recent years over how many votes are needed to adopt a BIR. And whereas if a court finds that a local law's BIR was adopted improperly, it could result in that local law being challenged on procedural grounds, even if the local law otherwise even if the local law otherwise passed both chambers and became law. And whereas Amendment 1 would allow local bills and local constitutional amendments to be considered by the legislature without adoption of a BIR, removing the procedural step from the legislative process. And whereas the Association of County Commissioners of Alabama has adopted a resolution encouraging Alabamians to vote yes on Amendment 1 on March 5th, 2024. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Houston County Commission that it encourages the citizens of the county to go to the polls on March 5th, 2024 and make their voices heard on Amendment 1. All right. So what does all that government gobbledygook actually mean? So in 1984, the state adopted a constitutional amendment that required the House and the Senate to pass the budgets, the education budget and the general fund budget before any other business was considered, unless they adopted a budget isolation resolution by a vote of, quote, of not less than 3/5 of a quorum present. So what that means is what I know the intent was to make sure that they pass the budgets first, but what in practice has happened is that they just vote on a BIR on everything. All right, so there was a state representative that was running for reelection, and up to this point, if you wanted to pass a local law, if I was a state representative for Houston County, and let's say, for instance, in Dale County, they wanted to pass a local law. I don't have anything to do with Dale County. I don't represent Dale County, but Dale County has voted to pass this law. The legislative delegation from Dale County has voted to pass this law. So who am I to say otherwise? And that was historically, traditionally, the way things were done. They would just vote yes out of courtesy for their fellow representatives that they were going to agree with this local law, local constitutional amendment. All right, so fast forward to at some point, I think it was in the 90s, there was a gentleman running for reelection. And the guy that was challenging him decided, I'm going to look up all the local laws that this guy has voted for. And I'm going to attack him for voting for all these local laws because undoubtedly a lot of these local laws have to do with taxes that in many cases have been approved by the voters of the county. And the guy that was running against the incumbent challenged him, took him to task for voting for, I don't know, millions of dollars of tax increases all across the state of Alabama that really he had nothing to do with. And he beat the gentleman. And so what happened is everybody else in the legislature decided, well, I don't really want to vote for all these local laws if it involves a tax increase because I don't want to be attacked when I run for reelection for being a quote unquote tax raiser, even though I'm just voting out of courtesy for my fellow representatives. And so then that gets to the question of what does a vote, quote, of not less than 3/5 of a quorum present actually mean? Does it mean that once you have a quorum, you have to have 3/5 of all the members of the delegation or all the members of the House or the Senate vote in favor of this? Or does it mean that you have a quorum, you have a vote, and 3/5 of them have to be in favor? I mean, what does this actually mean? And so we have passed laws and constitutional amendments over the years, in many cases that have been approved by the citizens of this county. One instance would be the $5 tax fee that funds EMS. That was passed by us. It was passed by the delegation. It was approved and ratified by the citizens of this county. We've done the same thing to support bills that support law enforcement over the years. And so theoretically, if a court were to interpret, quote, of not less than 3/5 of a quorum present actually means that you need 3/5 of the members of the body of the House or 3/5 of the members of the body of the Senate to pass a local law or to adopt a budget isolation resolution. Theoretically, all these local laws, all these local constitutional amendments could be declared invalid, which would also mean that we would have to pay back millions of dollars of improperly collected taxes. That it would invalidate all these laws that we've been enforcing over the years. We could be declared of enforcing invalid laws, and we could be sued for that. So the resolution is Amendment 1, to basically ratify everything that has been done in the past and remove the requirement for a budget isolation resolution to be adopted if it is only concerning a local constitutional amendment or a local law. So that is the solution that has been put forward, and I can tell you, unless you want to bankrupt this county and every other county across the state of Alabama, you need to vote yes on Amendment 1, because that is probably what is going to happen if a court were to interpret this the wrong way, and we have to pay back millions of dollars of taxes, and we get sued over enforcing laws and things that we have been, quote unquote, improperly enforcing for years when we've done nothing wrong. We've followed the procedures that set out by law. It's been ratified in many cases, in most cases, in fact, by the citizens. It's been passed by the House. It's been passed by the Senate. But because of a technicality, something is declared to be invalid. So anyway, if that makes,
Now that was
explain it one
awesome.
more time. Okay, I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Explain one more time. That was
So any
That was good.
questions on this item? I don't know if I can answer it. I'm confused as you are, but I will do my best to answer any questions that you
No
may have.
objection.
Most of what
Mr.
we need to
Chairman.
vote yes.
Just vote yes. Vote yes on Amendment 1. So any objection to placing this item on the agenda?
No objection.
All right, thank you. Item number 5 is a request to approve mortgage refinancing for 411 North Foster Street and authorize chairman to execute all necessary documents. 411 North Foster Street, as you may remember, is the new sheriff's office. So Mr. Covert, I'll let you talk about this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You gentlemen may recall that when this building was first purchased from Black Bear Credit Union, that we had a 15-year mortgage with a 3-year balloon payment. This April is the anniversary of that balloon payment, so we need to address refinancing or paying off that mortgage. The balance is about $1.87 million. The current mortgage holder has given us an offer that in light of today's interest rate environment It is a very attractive offer. I have confirmed this with other bankers in their community, and they say that this is a very sound offer for the commission to consider.
The offer is 5.49% fixed for 5 years with a balloon after 5 years.
It's gonna be amortized over 30 years from a cash flow standpoint.
Correct,
So it'll be a
yes.
5-year balloon.
Hopefully, interest rates will be down by then. Of
Exactly right.
course, if they do drop, is there a refinance penalty for this one?
I don't recall, but I don't think so.
Okay. Can't remember if we've gotten that far in the weeds on this yet or not, so. All right, any questions on this item? Any
And Peter,
objections?
this says 30 amortization.
30-year amortization.
That's strong.
So the payments will be
That's good.
about $13,000 a month, roughly.
That's correct. The rate's higher than what we had originally 3 years ago, but the interest rate environment
Of
is
course.
completely different nowadays. So the payment's just gonna be slightly less than what we're paying now. But the balloon will be pushed out for 5 years.
I always think back about the decision that we made to buy this building, and I remember the times, was it $2.5 million? I don't really want to spend that much, but I think it's the right thing to do. But man, we made out like bandits because we couldn't build that building now for less than 15, 20 at a minimum. I don't see how it could.
I have a question, Chairman.
Yes.
Do we have an option to pay it off to save the 13,000 a month
We
interest?
can pay it off early, but, we'd have to take a look at what our cash flow needs are. We're coming up, having a discussion this weekend about that. But I wanted to give the commission the opportunity to not have to fork out that money now, but make an evaluation of what the commission would like to do going forward as far as structural needs.
Yeah. And there's no fees for this refinance.
That is the beauty of this
Yeah.
offer, is that there are absolutely no fees. If you go to a new bank or a new lender, there'll be surveys and appraisal fees and attorney's fees and closing costs, and there'll be a lot more fees involved than what this offer is. This is a very sweet deal.
Yeah. And we could, we could enter into this agreement, and if we decide after this strategic planning that we do want to pay off this building and, go a different direction, we can do that really with no penalty. So, any other, good question, any other questions?
No question. I just like to make a 5-star credit union has been really good to us in this whole process. So, that bank right there has been a gift to us. Purchasing the building, they, and taking care of us on the financial side of things. So I just commend them.
And we were talking yesterday, I think that is probably the best looking county government building in the state. There may be another one out there that's better, but I've not seen it. That's a really nice building.
Yeah.
And I'm extremely proud of it, and I think the commission should be as well. All right, any other questions? Any objection to placing this item on the agenda?
No objection.
Okay. Item number 6 is a request to award bid for herbicide to lowest bidder meeting specs. Any questions on this item? Or any objection to placing this item on the agenda?
No objection.
Okay. Item number 7 is a request to sell the following items on GovDeals: miscellaneous office supplies and a Canon copier, both from the Revenue Department. Any questions or any objections to placing this item on the agenda? Okay. Is there anything else to be considered for Monday's agenda by the commission? All right. We do have one person, thank you, Commissioner. Let me
sir.
borrow this because I forgot to grab my copy. We do have one person that has requested privileges of the floor today, Mr. George Trotter, frequent guest. If you want to come on up to the podium. And he is going to talk to us about Amendment 1 and the lodging tax. So, Mr. Trotter, 5 minutes. Floor is yours.
Chairman, Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to come before you. I thought you was gonna answer that number 4 for me, but I'm more confused after you tried to explain it than I was before.
I think that's both of
And
us.
you admitted that, and that seems to be a sad note, that seems to be the way most propositions put before the public on the ballot, is that the language of what's spelled out is hard to understand. And that's not a good thing, but I don't know, I don't have a solution to correct it. By the way, my name is George Trotter, reside at 4218 County Road 203, Dothan, Alabama 36301. We'll follow procedures. Again, I can't hear very well, and I'm showing my ignorance by asking you what properties that we're talking about on Foster Street. What is that exactly?
You'll have to address the commission, ask your questions, and
I'm addressing you, sir.
at the end, I will answer all the questions I'm capable of.
Okay, did you get my question?
Yes.
Okay. Did you give me an answer?
I'll answer you at the end.
I'm sorry?
Excuse me, I will answer you at the end. Go ahead with your statements and questions, and I'll try to answer
You
all.
answered I asked you a question, what properties are we referring to on Foster Street?
And I will answer that question and all of your questions. Undoubtedly, this is not the only question you're going to ask, so I will answer that question and all of your questions I'm
How do you
capable of.
know so? It may be the only one, Mr. Chairman, this is absurd. the way you
Well,
answer.
this is the way that I run the meetings, and if you want to participate, you can
Okay,
proceed.
I'll do this. I'll say, you, in fact, about 3 years ago, voted to give Foster Fest downtown of the county commission money to the city of Dothan, who has multi-million dollars of surplus money. You voted, it's in the records, you voted, not to give them 125,000, let's just give them 25,000. Have we been continuing giving them that 25,000? That's a question, one more question.
You're here to talk to us about Amendment 1 of the lodging tax. So
I'm sorry?
you're here to talk to us today about Amendment 1 of the
Mr.
lodging
Chairman,
tax.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, is my constitutional right in my Alabama state right under the law of the Sunshine Law, open meetings law, am I being censored by the chairman of this commission? Not being censored. Where's your attorney? I wish he was here today. Because I'm telling you, y'all are leaving yourself wide open for a lawsuit from the people in Houston County by doing this, okay? Now, I want to discuss for a few minutes what's already been, it was done before y'all ever got here and brought it up the last meeting, y'all, but I want to talk about our lodging tax. That's already, I guess, in the hands of our legislators, Mr. Lee and Mr. Chastain. I asked the secretary, and I'm going to go by the office to get a copy of what was submitted to them that will be in law and be hopefully placed on the ballot in November, if it's approved, on the ballot for the people to vote on in this county. And as I told y'all before, I'm 100% behind the purpose of this tax. Because I've been after y'all for 5 years. Now, you knew, Mr. Chairman knows, and the ones that have been here, to budget out of your regular budget, annual budget, some money for the summer youth programs in these parks, and you, one ear and out the other, you ignore it. I asked you when we got the $20 million of COVID fund money back here, 6 to 8 months ago, whatever it was, maybe a year ago now. COVID relief fund, 20 million. I asked y'all to consider maybe taking a few $100,000 of that, put it in an escrow account to use for these programs, one ear and out the other. My question is we gonna hurt, my comment is, I feel like from having a business background, and I'm 77 years of age, and I question a lot whether y'all, if any of y'all have been in business, how in the world is this not going to adversely affect all of our small businesses in Houston County, in particular here in Dothan? Long term, this is going to be a bad tax. Even though, yeah, people coming through, everybody look, oh, well, we're not paying for that. That's those transits coming through paying this lodging tax. But guess what? We're going to pay the price. Our children and grandchildren are going to pay the price down the road because of this tax. And I'm here to tell you, I'm going to question the city of Dothan. I'm really kind of wondering why the Chamber of Commerce and our city council and mayor and all, why they have not raised sand about this. Because it's gonna hurt them more directly than anybody else. But it's a sad note. Now, I wanna make sure you understand, and then for the record, I am all about what this tax is for these children, for these summer programs. Again, I'm trying to get y'all to put that in your annual budget.
Thank you, Mr.
and
Trotter.
refuse to do it.
So
So, Mr.
411,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
yes, thank you.
Got a question real
Yeah.
quick. How is it gonna hurt us? How is this gonna hurt us?
Sorry?
How's it gonna hurt our grandchildren and children? How's it lodging tax gonna hurt us?
Real common sense. Who's gonna suffer immediately from this tax besides the revenue coming in from the lodging, from the motels, hotels, or travel trailer parks, whoever assessed this tax? They're gonna collect it from the consumer, right? That comes through, correct? Okay, those people are gonna decide, oh, we don't wanna go through Dothan, Alabama. Let's go through Donaldsonville to the beach. That's where all 90% of them are coming through here for anyway.
That's not true.
Let's go to Enterprise.
That's not true.
Let's go, yeah.
That's
okay.
not true, Mr. Trotter.
So what I'm telling you is, all the other businesses, restaurants.
Yeah.
If I was a restaurant owner, had stock in a restaurant here in this town, I'd be raising some kind of thing about this tax. And you saw what the people we had here from representing the motel industry the last meeting and all. You gotta look down the road, guys, look at the big picture. It's gonna affect, and people that are coming here, that they're gonna avoid us where they can. And people that spend a night here, they eat in the restaurants, right? They go to the hardware stores, or maybe sporting goods stores, dry goods stores, gas. All those things generate revenue. And I'm saying that it's gonna hurt us in the long run.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, answer one of your questions. 411 North Foster Street is the Sheriff's Department building. Copy of the bill was advertised today in the Dothan Eagle and will be for 4 weeks. The lodging tax will be still lower than everybody else in the state. So, if they go, matter of fact, if they go to Enterprise today and stay, then they're actually paying higher lodging tax than what they will pay in the city of Dothan. If this lodging tax passes, that will be the same. When I traveled to Panama City, I just went to DC, I paid a lodging tax, I paid for their parks. I think if somebody comes to DC and stays in Dothan or Houston County, Alabama, I think they ought to fund ours, and that's why I'm in favor of it. But as always, we appreciate your attendance, your sage advice, and your sunny disposition.
And I'll be
This
fighting-
meeting is
I'll be
concluded.
fighting
Thank you.
the tax. I promise you, 'cause it's-